Welcome to Speaking with Elvis podcast. This is the podcast where we discuss anything about communication and public speaking, and also personal development, mindset, and leadership. So now, if you haven't subscribed yet, it is time to do so because that's what helps this podcast to continue. And eventually, as I say, down the road, we'll be inviting some guests that we will be sharing some conversation that could be insightful and impactful. So that's why I actually recommend and suggest that if you could like or subscribe to our channel, whether it is on Spotify or even on YouTube, wherever you find it, please kind of encourage the show to go on. So today's episode is going to focus on multitasking. In fact, the topic of today is the myth of multitasking. And there's a reason why I'm calling the myth. Now, let's first define what multitasking means. Let's break that down. Let's break down into two words. The first one is it's multi, which means many. And the second one is tasking, which is simply task, many tasks. So the ability to do many tasks or many things at the same time. That's what multitasking simply. And when I say the myth of multitasking, it's simply putting into question the effectiveness of multitasking. Is it possible to do many things at the same time and that can yield efficiency and good result? So that's what we're going to be focusing on. When I was growing up just as a child, my parents, actually grandparents, because I grew up with my grandparents, they used to say to us that we cannot pursue many birds at the same time. As a kid, I couldn't understand what really it meant because technically it was a wisdom that was so profound that as a child growing up, you cannot really comprehend the reality of it. So now, in hindsight, I kind of realize that wisdom, it's almost everywhere. In fact, it's even in the Bible. I'm not a Bible expert, so I cannot quote the exact book or the exact verse where you can find it. But somewhere in the Bible, it is said that you cannot pursue two masters at the same time. It's somewhere in the Bible. I'm sure that some of the Bible aficionados can really know where that quote is or even that verse is in the Bible. So which means the idea of multitasking, it's simply doing many things at the same time. Now we live in the world where we are bombarded with a lot of things. We have become human doing rather than human being, which means we are doing a lot more now than we probably did hundreds of years ago. So because there's so much in our society, we are bombarded with things left and right, and we are trying to accomplish as many things as possible, the many tasks as possible. And we kind of think that by doing a lot at the same time, we are actually trying to achieve efficiency or even great result. But truth of the matter is simply that, and it is my opinion, that it is BS. It is complete garbage because if you think about it, it's not really possible to do many things at the same time and have efficiency and have a positive, outstanding result, have depth into your result. Why? Simply because our brain was not designed that way. Scientifically, it is proven that our brain is not designed that way. We may think that by doing a lot of things, for instance, we might slouch on the couch, binging on the Netflix and eating ice cream or popcorn and talking to a friend over the phone. And we're thinking that we are doing a lot of things at the same time. We are actually doing a lot of things. We're doing three things at the same time. Yes, you can do that on the surface level. Truth of the matter is simply that you would not be so concentrated on the movie. You would not be so concentrated on talking with your friend, and even eating ice cream. You would not be feeling the taste, the delicious taste of the ice cream, because it's almost passive eating. It's not something that is active. It's not something that you are really bringing your attention into the eating process of that popcorn or even ice cream to even savor in your palate. You cannot do that. At the same time, you cannot watch a movie correctly and understand the movie, simply because movie in itself, even when you concentrate on a movie, sometimes you might not get the movie completely right away. You have to watch that movie a couple of times or even three times or even more to completely understand the intricacies of the plot of the movies. So by doing those three things, you are not really accomplishing anything. That's simply the myth of multitasking. And that is only the surface level, something that is basic. As talking to friends is not the life-changing kind of endeavor that you're doing. But if you really want to do something that's consistent, trying to do many things at the same time would never, absolutely never yield any result. Just think about trying driving. You are doing job interview over the phone. How would that be consistent? How would that be effective? And how would you achieve efficiency by doing that? You could be very distracted by the road. And when we drive, there's so many things happen on the road, right? You cannot be fully concentrated on the interview, on the question that are being asked. So that's how it almost impossible to do many things at the same time and achieve efficiency and achieve result, in-depth result. So that's why I term it the myth of multitasking. Multitasking doesn't really work. And I'm going to give you some of the example where uh, that multitasking is not quite effective, even in our life, in different sectors, in different domains of our lives. So now the first one, it's simply, I'm going to go back in school. Now in school, we are told to do many disciplines. We are taught many disciplines. We have math, we have literature, history, geography, you can name it. We have so many disciplines or subjects in school that we need to study. Think about it. Even when sometimes you have the natural inclination to be good at one subject, now the school system wants us to bring up our grade in those subjects that we are not so much as good. So we take the time away from the things that we are already good at to put on the things that we are weak at. We end up by becoming almost average in all subjects. That's how we kind of lose ourselves in the process of trying to do many things at the same time. In my book, The Power of Your One Thing, in fact, the myth of multitasking, it's a very first chapter in my book, The Power of Your One Thing. I really specify, I really illustrate how the school system forces us to be able to take the time away from some of the things that we already kind of good at and put on the things that we are weak at. And we end up by being average. Just imagine if you were from the get-go, from the kindergarten, second grade or third grade, that you have that natural proclivity to be good at a particular discipline, and then you take the time to focus and concentrate on that one discipline, on that one subject. By the time that you hit your 20 or even earlier or later, right, you will be expert at that one thing that you have focused on. So that's why multitasking, even from the get-go, has failed us in school. And that can apply with a lot of things that we do in life. Now, we are even told in many instances that we need to have a plan B and plan C or even plan D, whatever number, whatever letter you want to put to the plan. So the problem with that is that when we do have a plan B in life, here's the thing, our brain doesn't fully focus on plan A simply because we know that if we fail this, we will go back to this one. So already our brain is simply not giving 110% or 1000%, right? Simply because you know that there's a fallback plan. There's something that you will fall back on. What if you put everything? What if you have burned the bridges? You see that this, I am going to work on this until it breaks through, until I see breakthrough, until it's not even the term that you're gonna place, likely with, until it's like you're gonna work on this thing until everything comes into play until you succeed. And that's how you usually succeed. That's how many people, we've learned that throughout history, many people who have focused on one thing and work so much at that one thing, and they have achieved actually success, whatever you might define with that success, right? They have achieved the level of mastery. And when you are master at anything, the world actually remembers you. The world knows you and remembers you. So that's why focusing on plan, just one plan, don't even term it plan A, because when you see plan A, that supposedly means that there's got to be plan B somewhere. So just go on that one thing. And in my book, again, The Power of Your One Thing, I really encourage readers to be able to go and find that one thing that defines them, the one thing that they were bestowed at birth by the creator, God, or whatever you might term it. So if you find it and you focus on it, not having plan A or plan A or plan B or plan C, just to put all your effort, in fact, put 10,000 hours developing it, working on it, you would become really good at it. That's how you can achieve efficiency. That's how you can achieve greatness. That's how you can actually have effectiveness in what you do. So plan A, plan B, plan C is a garbage. I'm not talking about abandoning everything at the pursuit of that one plan. No, that's not what I mean. What I mean, here's the thing. This is how some people proceed. In fact, one of my mentors, Jim Rohn, used to say that work part-time on your job, but full-time on yourself. Work part-time on your job and full-time on yourself. It's the magic of the part-time. So which means you can work on your job to pay the bills. You can work on your job to live every day, to put food on the table for your kids. But your mind, your focus, it's on that one thing that you believe deeply it is your one thing, right? So when you focus deeply on it, so that's how you can break through. That's how success would happen. That's how fulfillment would actually appear. So don't take the idea of not having plan B as if meaning that you gotta abandon everything. No, you can be having a part-time, you can be working on the day job and working on your passion, on the one thing on the side until the thing that is your passion, is your one thing, becomes sufficient. So that simply means the things that can provide you the means for your bills, for your living and stuff like that. So plan A, plan B, plan C usually don't work simply because your mind would not fully put 110% on that plan A, simply because in the back of your mind, subconsciously, you can even call it unconsciously, you know that there's something to fall back on, and that's how you would not put everything that you have, every outer of your energy on that one thing that you want to achieve. And this also applies in how we can achieve success. Sometimes we hear the advice that don't put all your eggs in one basket. We've heard that a lot of the time, right? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. I kind of counter that by saying, put all your eggs in one basket and put all your attention on the basket. So think about that a little bit. People often say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And I counter it by saying, put all your eggs in one basket and put your full attention on the basket and pay attention to the basket. So that's how you can actually really cater to the basket, by putting the full attention. So that's the thing called the diversification fallacy, right? Diversification fallacy, you have to want to do a little bit on the left, a little bit on the right, a little bit in the front, a little bit in the back to assure that you can never completely go to zero. That's what we often hear, right? Even in the business, that just don't focus on that one business. You can start a little bit here and start a little bit there, start a little bit. If you fail in one business, the other one can go on. If you fail in two, maybe two more can be going on. So that's really BS also. That's really not something that can help you achieve success and fulfillment and just become great in life. Because if you think about it, those who have succeeded, those who have achieved great success by the societal definition of success, right? Those people have focused uniquely on one thing, have done tremendously good at that one thing. When they arrive at a certain level of success, that's when they can diversify. And I remember somewhere in the Bible, I was listening to this priest. He was telling how the Bible even mentions something like that. I don't know if it were about Solomon, who actually, in fact, I'm not going to take that example because I can get lost. I'm not a Bible kind of guy, but when I hear something from the Bible, it always tickles me because, I think the Bible is a book of faith, but life as well. There are a lot of things in the Bible. So, which means it's always good to focus on that one thing, becoming so good at that thing, achieving tremendous success before you actually diversify. We've seen that it's around us. Look around you, see all the people who have achieved tremendous amount of success. We will realize that they have focused on the particular thing. They have arrived at the level of success. Now they can diversify. Just take even athlete, right? The Serena Williams. That's an example that I took in my book, The Power of You. One thing, you've seen this lady who have achieved tremendous success in sport. Absolutely incredible success. Now, once she has achieved that level of success, she has diversified in different ventures, in the beauty business, in the fashion, in any type of endeavor. So she have worked at the tennis since she was little, worked tremendously, won many championships, and then she has diversified. An example of Amazon. Amazon today is behemoth in terms of business. Uh, Amazon is one of the biggest business. I think Jeff Bezos today is one of the, I think, top billionaires in the world today. So what Jeff Bezos has done, he has concentrated on selling books on Amazon. That was the very first venture that he did. He sold books for years, in fact, I think over 10 years, and sometimes even without making profit before he became Amazon that we know today. So, and now you see Jeff Bezos is in every venture now. Amazon sells food, Amazon it's in space, Amazon deliver almost anything that you can imagine. But they started by selling books alone, books alone. And Amazon sold books for years before they reached the level that they can diversify. So you kind of think that when it comes to multitasking is simply something that doesn't yield efficiency, doesn't yield result in depth. So think about it. Yes, again, I can take an example of you talking to friends while they're eating popcorn and watching TV. That can be okay, but it may not be okay when you are driving and doing a job interview or making a sales call. You can never achieve result that way or anything for that matter. So it's impossible to really multitask and do something tremendously worthwhile when you are multitasking. So it's something that to be throughout. Concentration is really the the key to achieving, to going somewhere, achieving something tremendous, something worthwhile, something outstanding. And concentration doesn't always come naturally. I don't think, it's my opinion, I don't think that people are born absolutely great, with great focus and great concentration. I don't think that people are born that way. But it is something that can be cultivated. So, which means we can cultivate concentration. That's why the exercise of meditation is one of the things that can help us to build that concentration, that focus. Because when we hear the meditation practices, meditation masters, they often advise us to stop focusing on our breath. You know, how long can we go when we focus on our breath before our mind stop wandering? You see, so which means that naturally our mind is not meant to sit still. It often wanders, but we can work to make it sit there for a while, for a couple of minutes, for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 20 minutes, or even 1 hour for a lot of masters and people who really are good at this thing. But you don't start out becoming good at being concentrated on your breath. No, you practice becoming focused and concentrate on that breath. So that's how you can actually even stop becoming more concentrated on any particular endeavor, any particular sport, any particular activity. That's how you can achieve success. You can achieve whatever that you are pursuing. Concentration, focus, it's something that's the key to achieving something that is worthwhile, something that is deep, that is profound, that is outstanding, remarkable, that you can even achieve excellence. You have to concentrate, give so much of your energy to it to be able to get somewhere. So you see, multitasking is a myth, which means it really doesn't work at all. Again, you can multitask in small activities, passively doing things that you don't even expect something remarkable. But if you want to see a result in the things that you need to do, some level of concentration, some level of focus it needs to come into play. So you have to be able to concentrate, not just thinking that, oh, I can be doing a lot of things, or I'm going to just be, while I'm doing this, while I'm feeding the kids, I might be talking on the phone, or maybe washing dishes, or, you know, whatever that you can imagine that you could be doing at the same time. But you don't really achieve anything. You cannot feed the kids while doing other things. What if you put the foot on the wrong actually passage? You can be thinking that you are putting the foot in the kid's mouth, but you are putting it in his nose, or eye or ear. So I've seen a video of that. I don't know if it was a stage video, but there are many examples like that. So that's why concentrating on one thing is absolutely important. Now, sometimes we might think that, oh, maybe it's a waste of time, but you have all the time in the world. You can only achieve things by being focused on that one thing before you go to the next. Even sometimes we think that by switching tasks, like going from one thing to another thing, would actually help us to be able to, capitalize on time. But in the end, we are simply wasting that time, because science proves that task switching is a process that really costs us a lot. And it's usually called the task switching cost, which means when you are working on something and then you switch to do something else. Now, by the time that you get to the first thing, to get back to the level of concentration that you were before you actually switched, it would take another time, it would take effort. So that's a lot of energy, that's a lot of effort, and that's a lot of time wasted. In the end, we're losing even more time, effort, and energy trying to do many things at the same time, at least trying to switch between tasks. So it's important to really focus. I want to say that the underlying uh, insight here is simply the power of focus, the power of concentration. Even though the topic is the myth of multitasking, but the reverse of that, it's focus. And I've shared with you how you can focus on one thing, and focusing on one thing means achieving that thing in its depth, to achieve efficiency in doing that thing. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the topic of our podcast today. And again, welcome again to Speaking with Elvis podcast. And it's a pleasure really sharing this insight with you. I learned so much myself by sharing this with you. And I do apply that in my life too. So even in my public speaking and communication journey, I use the power of focus to be able to achieve uh, uh, some level of success in my public speaking abilities. So thank you so much, and then I will see you on another episode, and we will be sharing more insightful topic there. Thank you.